The ranger never believed the building was haunted. That sentence mattered to him. He repeated it often, usually out loud, usually at night. The thing about long hallways in old American government buildings is that they were never meant to feel comfortable. They were built to last, not to soothe. Thick stone walls, narrow windows, wood floors that remembered every boot that ever crossed them. These halls were designed for discipline, order, and silence. And silence, when it goes on long enough, begins to feel like something else entirely. This particular hall sat inside a protected National Historic Site, officially categorized as an administrative structure, unofficially known among rangers as the Long Building. No one could remember who started calling it that. It had simply always been long, always dim, always echoing in a way that made your own footsteps sound like someone following you a moment too late. If you worked there long enough, you learned to slow your pace. The building had once served as a military coordination hall in the late 19th century. Later, it became a ranger headquarters. Before that, it had been a temporary housing facility for surveyors mapping the land that would eventually become a national park. Like many American government buildings, it carried layers of purpose, stacked one on top of another, never fully erased. Park Ranger Daniel Whitmore first walked into the hall on a rainy evening in early autumn. He was new to the site, but not new to parks. He had worked forests, deserts, mountain ranges. He had dealt with lost hikers, injured animals, angry campers, and one particularly aggressive raccoon. Ghosts did not rank high on his list of concerns. The senior ranger handed him a ring of keys that weighed more than it should have. "Night patrol," she said casually. "Just walk the halls every hour. Make sure doors are locked, radios charged. Nothing exciting." She paused, then added, "If you hear footsteps, it's probably the building." That was the first hook. Daniel barely noticed it at the time. The first few nights were uneventful. The halls smelled faintly of old paper and cleaning solution. The lights hummed. The radiators knocked gently as if clearing their dotes. Daniel walked his route, checked his watch, filled out reports. At exactly 2:17 a.m. every night, the temperature dropped near the eastern wing. Not dramatically, just enough to register. He told himself it was airflow, old insulation, science doing science things. He was a rational person. Rational people did not jump to conclusions, especially not paranormal ones. But rational people also noticed patterns. By the fifth night, Daniel realized something else. The sound of his boots echoed differently in that section of the hall. The delay was longer, the return softer, like the space was absorbing sound rather than reflecting it. On the seventh night, he heard a chair move. It scraped softly across the floor, coming from one of the closed offices. Daniel stopped walking. The sound stopped too. He waited, counted his breaths. Nothing else happened. He unlocked the office, empty, desk untouched, chair slightly pulled back. He pushed it in, locked the door, made a note in his log. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Over the following weeks, Daniel noticed the same chair out of place, not always the same amount, sometimes only an inch, sometimes turned slightly, as if someone had sat and reconsidered. No other objects moved, no mess, no chaos, just the chair. He mentioned it casually to another ranger during a shift change. The ranger smiled politely in a way that suggested this conversation had happened many times before. "That's the old surveyor office," she said. "They used it back when they were mapping the valley." "Anyone still go in there?" asked Daniel. "No, not for decades," she replied. She didn't elaborate. Night patrols continued. Daniel adapted. He stopped adjusting the chair, stopped writing it down. There are only so many times you can document something without feeling foolish. Then the lights began turning on by themselves. Only one set, only after midnight, always the same room, the surveyor office. Daniel checked the wiring, maintenance checked the wiring. Nothing was wrong. The switch worked normally. No timers, no sensors. One night, Daniel stood at the end of the hall and watched as the light flicked on. No delay, no flicker, just on. He didn't move. Minutes passed. Then the light turned off again. Daniel slept poorly after that. He started to read the building's records during his downtime: construction logs, renovation notes, incident reports. There was an entry dated 1911, and Elias Monroe had worked late nights compiling land data. He was meticulous, obsessive according to personal notes from his supervisor. He believed errors in measurements would ruin the land forever. Elias died in the building. Cause of death was listed simply as exhaustion complicated by illness. He collapsed at his desk and was found the next morning surrounded by maps. The office was sealed for a time, then reopened, then forgotten. He closed the file and leaned back in his chair. That night, the chair in the office was pushed all the way out. The next time the light turned on, Daniel walked down the hall and stood in the doorway. He didn't step inside, he just watched. The room felt occupied. Not visually, emotionally. The air was heavy with focus, with the quiet tension of unfinished work. Daniel spoke softly, mostly to himself. "You don't work here anymore." The light stayed on. After that, the disturbances stopped. The chair remained still, the light stayed off. The hall returned to its usual quiet. Daniel transferred the following year. He never requested the move, he never complained. But on his last night, as he walked the hall one final time, he noticed something new pinned to the bulletin board near the old office. A copy of an original land survey map. Corrected, perfect, and signed with initials no one remembered approving. EM. That building still stands. Rangers still patrol it. The chair no longer moves, but the map remains, and no one takes it down.